Hey everyone, what's going on? Hope you're all doing great and ready for something new because SnowRunner just dropped a brand new update, version 1.65, and man, there's quite a bit to unpack here. Whether you're a longtime mud veteran or someone who's just starting to get the hang of winching yourself out of a swamp, this patch brings some genuinely cool stuff that's going to make your time behind the wheel even better. It's got that perfect mix of new paid content and free improvements that'll breathe some fresh life into the game. So let's talk about what's new, what's changed, and how it actually feels in practice, because this isn't just a small tune-up. There's quite a bit going on under the hood. Alright, so first things first, the headline of this update is the release of the Dragon Wagon's Dual Pack DLC. That's what the devs are calling DLC 43, and it introduces two brand new trucks, the Padera STD-4 and the AVENHORN A15. Just from the names alone, you can tell these are pretty different beasts. The Padera STD-4 is built like a heavy-duty recovery truck. It's got this industrial, almost military kind of aesthetic to it. You can fit it with a tow truck flatbed setup, which lets you pull other trucks out of tough spots or haul them across brutal terrain. That alone already makes it feel like a specialized recovery rig, something we haven't really had quite like this before in SnowRunner. You can also equip it with a flatbed truck setup, so it's flexible enough to haul cargo when you're not dragging another rig out of a ditch. It's basically one of those trucks that can fill multiple roles, and if you like working as the team's recovery lifeline or just enjoy managing multiple objectives on your own, it's probably going to become a favorite. Now, the AVENHORN A15 is a bit of a different story. This one has a sleek design, something that fits nicely into that mid-size, all-purpose category. It comes with a universal compartment that gives it a modular feel, sort of like the Step or Tatra builds where you can swap around setups depending on what kind of job you're doing. You can tell that Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment are really paying attention to variety at this point, making sure each new truck has its own personality. The AVENHORN feels like it could easily slot into that role of a reliable, everyday workhorse for hauling medium loads without feeling clunky or underpowered. The DLC content is, of course, optional. You don't have to buy it if you just want to enjoy the free stuff. And that's something SnowRunner has been doing consistently well. Even when they drop paid content, they always add some free upgrades that make the whole game better for everyone. This update is no exception, and honestly, the free content might be just as exciting as the DLC for many players. So, let's talk about the free stuff. Both the CAT 745C and CAT 7700G trucks have received new add-ons that expand their usefulness in a pretty big way. The 745C now gets a flatbed, a maintenance frame, Caterpillar wires, and a saddle high. That basically turns what used to be a fairly niche heavy truck into a much more versatile machine. You can now set it up for different kinds of missions. It's no longer just the heavy hauling beast you left in your garage. The 770G also gets some love, with a new maintenance frame and a saddle high of its own. It's awesome because these big cat trucks always looked great, but now they actually have more reason to be used beyond just one or two contract types. It feels like the devs are gradually going through older vehicles and making them more relevant, which is something the community has been asking for a while. But the real highlight for many longtime players is what they've done with some of the early game and scout vehicles. The Chevrolet CK1500, Scout 800, and Con 39 Marshall have all received major improvements, and these are more than just small tweaks. They actually make these trucks way more viable than before. They've each been given reworked stock and raised suspensions, and now even a brand new crawler suspension type available. This means better clearance, improved articulation, and a lot more control when navigating rocks or deep mud. If you love scouting routes and exploring hidden parts of the map, this change is going to feel like a game changer. On top of that, both the CK1500 and the Scout 800 now have access to a new expanded trunk with parts upgrade, which gives them more repair and spare parts capacity. The Marshall, which has always been a bit of an underdog, now gets a fuel tank that's nearly double the original size, plus a Scout trailer hitch, finally. That one change alone opens up a ton of new possibilities because you can now pull Scout trailers with it, turning it into a small but capable long-range vehicle. It's honestly the kind of change that'll make people take another look at trucks they might have written off a long time ago. You can really tell that Saber Interactive wants to make older vehicles feel more balanced and less forgotten. These kinds of changes show that the team listens to player feedback, which is something not every studio does well. For example, a lot of people had complained about how the Marshall didn't make sense compared to newer Scout vehicles. It had good off-road power, but not enough fuel or utility. Now, it finally feels like it belongs in the same league as newer Scouts like the T's 420 Tataran or the Con Low 4F. The CK1500 and Scout 800 have always been fan favorites from early in the game, so it's great to see them modernized. Now let's move over to the general fixes and improvements, which are always worth mentioning because they can really affect day-to-day gameplay. There's been a ton of small but meaningful polishing here. Stuff like fixing the dashboard lights on the HIB Billard 1980, tweaking collision boxes on the slider ST816, and fixing trailer unfolding on logging semis. There's also been work done to improve cargo warnings, coupling behavior, and even small UI adjustments for certain contracts. These are the kinds of little things that might not sound flashy, but they add up to make the game feel smoother and more reliable. If you've been playing through the Washington region from Season 16, you'll also notice a few important map fixes. They've added proper gateway activation zones between Solace Bay and Selton River Mountains, which makes transitions between those maps way more consistent. A few missing service trailers have been restored, some contract names and objectives have been cleaned up, and they fixed an issue with the data buoy naming. Those things might sound small, but if you've ever lost a mission-critical trailer or couldn't unlock a gateway that should have been there, you know how frustrating that can be. This patch really helps clean up some of those lingering problems. So, in a nutshell, this update isn't about adding an entirely new region or season, it's about refinement and reinvigoration. It's about making old content feel fresh again and giving the players more tools to play the game their own way. And that's one of the best things about SnowRunner. It doesn't always need a massive new map to keep things interesting. Sometimes, just giving your old Chevy a new suspension and a reason to go back out into the wild is enough to make you fall in love with it again. I also like how this update subtly encourages more cooperation between vehicles. With the new flatbed and maintenance options on the big cats, the addition of towing capabilities on the Padera, and those revamped scouts being able to haul trailers, it's starting to feel like you can build full, balanced convoys out of just your favorite trucks. You can have your heavy haulers, your support trucks, and your scouts, all feeling more complementary rather than redundant. That's something the SnowRunner experience thrives on, the sense of planning and coordination between machines. And for those who are wondering about platforms, this update is available everywhere except for one small limitation. The DLC content, meaning the new trucks, isn't available on Nintendo Switch. But the patch itself, the fixes, the free add-ons, and the rebalancing is available on all systems, including PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. So Switch players still get all the quality of life improvements, just not the 2 new DLC trucks for now. If you're wondering how the new trucks perform, early impressions from players who've tested them are pretty positive. The Padera STD-4 is being praised for its strength and towing versatility, especially for those who like rescue missions. The AVENHORN A15 seems to fill a solid mid-tier niche. It's not overpowered, but well-rounded, which means it'll likely become a steady pick for mid-weight contracts. And for returning players who maybe took a break, this patch is actually a really nice moment to come back. Between the new crawler suspensions, refreshed add-ons, and general polish, the game just feels more complete. SnowRunner's world is always expanding, but these in-between updates are what really keep it feeling alive. So yeah, version 1.65 might not sound like a big number on paper, but it's one of those patches that makes a big difference in how the game feels moment to moment. It gives more personality to trucks you already own, it deepens the loadout possibilities for the heavyweights, and it sets the stage for whatever's coming next. The developers have built a reputation for long-term support, and this is exactly the kind of update that shows why SnowRunner continues to have such a loyal fan base. It's not about flashy changes, it's about steady, thoughtful evolution. Anyway, that's the full breakdown. If you've been away from the mud for a while, this is a great excuse to jump back in, try out those new crawler suspensions, and maybe test drive one of the Dragon Wagons if you grab the DLC. It's another solid step forward for a game that's still one of the best vehicle simulation experiences out there.